Israel had done two great evils, God said. They had turned from Him, the fountain of life, and had hewed themselves cisterns to drink out of. Now, that's something, the reason I thought of this text was because that it would run parallel to what I was saying this morning of the hour that we're living and the cause that we are struggling for. And we look at Israel as example that what God was, He always has to remain the same. And there's only one thing that God ever did honor, that was His way that He provided for the people. And when they got out of that way, then God was dishonored, and God made the people suffer for getting away from what He had told them to do, no matter what it was. He even gave them a law: touch not, handle not, taste not. Just not because of the evil of doing it, but the evil of disobeying what He said do. There's always cannot be a law without a punishment for law, because if there's no punishment, then law is not much to it, unless it has a penalty, the law. Now, we find what they did in that day seems to parallel what we are doing today, what the church people are doing. Now, we see a strange thing here. It might be strange to some people. When He said, they have hewn to themselves cisterns, broken cisterns. Now, maybe some of you don't know what a cistern is. How many knows what a cistern is? Well, most all of you. If you was ever raised on a farm, you know what a cistern is. I remember I drank enough bugs from one to know what a cistern was. Preached out in the country where you, in a brush harbor, where you'd have a big pitcher full of cistern water sitting there out of the rain, and it kind of got a little old, and then the bugs at night time would get into it. And so I know what cistern water is. A cistern is a place, a thing that's dug in the ground to take the place of a well. Where people doesn't have a well, then they get a cistern. In other words, a cistern is a man-made tank or a man-made well in the ground that man dig out to catch the water, to use it. Some of them use it for wash water, and some use it for drinking water, and different way. Maybe all the water sometime that we used to get was on a cistern. Used to have an old thing that had to wind around to get the water up, had little buckets on it to pump the water out of the cistern. Well, we notice one thing about a cistern. It's different from a well. Now, a cistern will get empty. The cistern cannot fill itself. It's not reliable. You can't rely upon a cistern. It has to rely and depend upon the rains that fall in the summer or in the winter, whatever it is, usually in the winter time. When the snow and rain comes, then it runs the water off into the cistern. And if it doesn't get that water, then you don't have any water. It's all dries up. And it can't refill itself. The old cistern cannot refill itself. It gets its filling from the rains that falls. And I want you to notice another thing about a cistern. Usually, you find, or the way it was at our place, a cistern, usually the barn's about twice the size of the house, and they usually run the water off the barn to the cistern. I remember that old cistern well out there when the drain pipes rushing it off the barn. It fills from the barn, so then the water is carried from the roof of the barn, where all the animals stepping around through the stable yard, and all the filth of the barnyard settles on top of the barn in dry times, and then the water comes and washes it all down off the roof into a trough. It's man-made, then into a man-made spout, and then into a man-made cistern. If you haven't got a mess, I don't know what you got when you got a cistern. Yes, sir. It's all man-made and just as dirty as it can be. You know, we had a filter rag on one. Did you ever know what that was? Had to put a filter rag on it to catch all the bugs and things that come off the top of the barn and all around the place and pour it out from one place to the other into the cistern. And we used to put a filter rag on it to catch all the scum and stuff that we could. Of course, that wouldn't catch the real dirt. It just caught the big missiles that come down and fell into it. The bug might fall in it, but the juice of the bug went on with the water. So you really had a mess when you had an old dirty cistern. In a few days, you let that water stand there, and it becomes stagnated. You let the water stand in the cistern, it becomes stagnated. And it gets full of frogs and lizards and snakes, and we used to call it wiggle tails. Little bitty, I don't know where they're not a parasite, they're I don't know what you call them, but some little thing gets in the water that we called it wiggle tails. You know what it is. How many knows what I'm talking about? Well, sure, all you country folks know. Gets it all full of stagnation. And then these lovers of stagnation comes with it. It just actually comes because it's stagnated. And because it's stagnated, it draws the animal there that likes stagnated things. That's a whole lot like our churches today. I think that we have left one of the great sins that the church has done today, just like Israel then. It left Him, the fountain of living water, and has hewed themselves out man-made cisterns. And it become a habitation of everything that loves that kind of water. Lizards, frogs, and all kinds of unclean germs live in it because it's a man-made tank. And in this tank, these things stay. A perfect example of our denominationals today. Now you say, Brother Branham, why do you strike at those people so hard? It ought to be struck at. It's got to be struck at. Flee it, because it will finally form the mark of the beast. Amen. Remember, that is the truth. It will be the mark of the beast. Denomination will lead right to it. It's on its road right there now to force by power